Okay, it's time to get down to business. Doing this inside today because the storms are rolling through. Um, don't know where they're coming from. I know that Hurricane Lee, is shooting north. At least last time I checked. We'll check again later. Hit some news, and then I am going to go into Isaiah 47, I do believe it is. Let me take a quick look. And we're going to talk about, Isaiah 47. We're going to talk about why God does things the way he does them, in the sense of God's response to the things that we do. And we're going to take a look at an aspect of that, a part of that, out of Isaiah 47. And it's going to have to do with current events and so forth. All right, let's start with the Epoch Times. So, former sheriff's deputy, this is 14 minutes ago. Former sheriff deputy, let me angle this so I'll turn this off so it's not so bright. That's pretty good, yeah, there we are. So, um, I'm not formal with these videos, folks. I just do them. Okay, they just come out the way they come out, whatever. All right. Former Sheriff's Deputy Ronald McAbee considering January 6th plea deal just before trial. You know, what they've done to the January 6th prisoners is unconstitutional, and it violates the Fifth Amendment to have a speedy trial. And they didn't have a speedy trial. And so, you know, I consider a lot of the charges against them to be bogus. This is the overreach of the federal government, what they've done to the January 6th defendants. I mean, if they're calling what happened on January 6th, where the people entered the Capitol building, if they're calling that an insurrection, I would hate to see their response if a real insurrection were to occur. And my concern is if they keep pushing the way they are, trying to set up another fake pandemic and more mandates and all of this stuff, and trying to push for digital IDs, which we're going to look at here in a moment because that popped up in the Epoch Times, and trying to take the farmland away. Bill Gates buying farmland up all over the country. They're trying to chop the farmland up, but they're also trying to obtain it corporately so that they might control the production and distribution of food, pushing social credit scores, and messing with people's bank accounts if the people do not abide by that which the globalist deep state fascists want us to abide by. I'm concerned that pushing all of that and pushing it as quickly and as haphazardly as they are, that we're going to end up with a real insurrection. Not a pretend insurrection, not one that was set up by the government for the purpose of going after their political enemies and then throwing them into jail and making them political prisoners. Not that kind of a fake insurrection that was a false flag operation by the government. No, we're talking the possibility of a real insurrection if they keep pushing this way. Because people are going to begin to realize that they're not abiding by the Constitution and nobody's holding them accountable. And they don't care that they're not abiding by the Constitution because they don't believe in the Constitution anymore. They believe in the New World Order and they believe in international governance. And they're trying to push this upon us first right now through World Health Organization and these mandates that they're trying to push upon everyone. So keep pushing, and the people in this country, my concern is, and my prediction is, could very well happen, will take up arms. And they'll say, you know what, enough is enough. Nobody's doing anything to stop this warfare against us, this massive attack against the American people, raids on people's home unconstitutionally by government agencies. People are going to get fed up and they're going to go, okay, that's it. We're taking up arms. And then you're going to have a real insurrection. And believe me, Deep State, believe me, Washington, you don't want to have a real insurrection. Because if the people rise up and they do it quickly, you will be overwhelmed and you will not be able to stop it. By the time you mobilize the military, the insurrection will be done and over. I guarantee you, there are a lot of veterans in the country that are well trained. A lot of former and retired law enforcement officers that are well trained. There are a lot of hunters. There are a lot of people that are well versed with firearms. By the time you mobilize the military, it will be over. Do not push the American people to that point. You're trying to force them into it because you think they're going to go to war with each other. That's not how it's going to happen. We're not divided that way. We are united in understanding that the deep state has declared war against us. We didn't declare war against the deep state and the New World Order. The New World Order and the deep state declared war against us. Now, I would prefer that things would be handled peacefully and reasonably. But I have my concerns that that might not be the outcome. So stop pushing. You might find yourself biting off more than you can chew. Nearly 150 illegal aliens on terror watch list apprehended at U.S. border in the past year. Well, duh. How about that? Wow. You mean there's people crossing our borders that intend to harm us? Come on. They know that. When they're opening up the borders, the deep state in Washington, D.C., when they're opening up the borders, they know this. They want these people to come in because they want these people to create havoc so that they can declare another emergency and then bring more draconian mandates and squeeze us even more through legislation and laws and just, tighten the vice grip on us even more. It started 2001, September 11th, 9/11 brought in the Patriot Act. And what did the Patriot Act bring in? Unconstitutional violations of our liberties. And it began at the airports. And then it spread from there. Surveillance upon the American people. That was outlawed. That was forbidden before 9/11. All of a sudden, that opens up. And now the American people become criminals to the deep state, even when we're not doing anything wrong. Going to church, well, that could put you on a watch list. Expressing an opinion that the government doesn't agree with or like, that could put you on a watch list. Even being an ancestor of Russian descendants can put you on a watch list. We used to have a saying in law enforcement: if you abuse it, you will lose it. We had a thing, it was 148 PC in the California Penal Code. And that was kind of a catch-all statute that you could use for people delaying or resisting an officer. And we would use that a lot until it was told to the officers, stop using 148 so much. And this came from the district attorneys and people like that, because they were saying, if you continue to abuse 148, you're going to lose it. You know, and the officers in California kind of heeded that warning. They did. I mean, they still have it on the books, because the officers kind of backed off and said, well, we're going to have to set kind of a standard as to when we're going to charge it and when we're not. See, they were smart enough at the local level in law enforcement to figure out, okay, we don't want to go down this road. At the federal level, forget it. They have no boundaries. There goes my iPad. All right, it does that to me all the time. Falls down. Now I got to, okay, I lost everything I had. Here we go. Let's bring it back. Come here, come here, come here. There we are. You know, they have no sense of boundaries or common sense when it comes to thinking, okay, you know, if we go down this road, we could end up here. They don't think that way. By the way, just me, as a retired patrol officer out of San Diego, 30 years on the job as a sworn law enforcement officer in California, my personal opinion, federal agencies, law enforcement agencies, are not real cops. They're not. They're investigators. The only ones I would consider to be real law enforcement officers would be the U.S. Marshals and the Secret Service. That's the only two federal agencies I think I would advocate to continue to fund and to keep in the federal government. Everything else can go bye-bye. If it was up to me, I would scrap the FBI. I would scrap the CIA. The CIA has done more damage to this country than any other agency. With all of the false flags, Operation Mockingbird, Operation Paperclip, Operation Bluebird. I mean, you can go down the list. MK Ultra. The things they did to those people in MK Ultra is criminal. And they have done more to attack the American people than to defend us. So I could care less if the CIA went away. Go by. I mean, how many intelligence agencies do we need? NSA, CIA, NICS, CID. I mean, go down the list. Keep one, and it should be in the military under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so that it can be, we can keep a close eye on it. And I think anybody who's in the intelligence agency should come under the UCMJ, my personal opinion, and be brought up on what we call the Navy Captain's Mass, or non-judicial punishment, if they step out of line. And if they step too far out of line, court-martial. And off to Leavenworth you go. We need tight reins on these agencies because they have gotten out of control. They stepped out of the boundaries and they've abused their authority. My personal opinion. Trump's federal trials won't be televised under new rules. This one made me angry. But, you know, probably could have predicted it. don't want to see in the trials. They don't want to see the evidence that's going to be brought out against them. All of the RICO violations that they have made, all of the corruption that they committed during the election. No, they don't want us to see that. No, they're hiding something. They're corrupt as Al Capone. They make Al Capone look like a Sunday school kid, a choir boy, next to what they do. These people are pure satanic evil, in my opinion. But you know what? Doing this is only going to make us more angry. And it's only going to make us even more resolved. You cannot stop what's coming, Deep State. We're coming for you. The American people are fighting back. We're going to defend ourselves. We're going to defend our families from all of this drag queen crap, transgender nonsense, all this stuff being pushed on our kids in public schools. We're done with it. And parents, get your kids out of those satanic, devil-infested pieces of garbage indoctrination centers called public schools. They are doing more damage to your kids than you. I mean, look, you Christian parents, where in the scriptures does it tell you to feed your children to the wolves? Show it to me. Get them out. All right. Georgia suspends gas tax amid emergency declaration over inflation. It seems like everything has become an emergency declaration these days. Oh, whoops, I stubbed my toe and I'm the governor and I hurt my toenail. I think I need to declare an emergency in the state. Golly. We're living in a time where hypersensitivity has taken over. And we've lost our minds, I tell you. FDA warns prominent firms against marketing and selling unapproved eye products. I looked at that. There's really nothing to that story. Apple announces major change in its latest iPhone model. I could care less about the latest Apple phone or the latest Galaxy phone. I don't care. On impeachment, what goes around comes around. Well, that's true. Because remember, how many times did they impeach Trump? It's going to come back on Biden now. They're talking about impeachment. I think they might be starting proceedings here pretty soon in the House. We'll see what happens. Poor rating given for most U.S. nursing homes. Quality of care poll. My wife works as a nurse. She takes care of geriatric patients. She has complained about that to me. Right now, her work is requiring her to wear a mask. It's a big corporation that has a bunch of these, people like to call them nursing homes, but they're not called that in the industry. Rehabilitation, I can't remember what the terminology is, but it's not called nursing homes in the industry. But basically, it's caring for the elderly. These big corporations that buy these mom and pop outfits, I'll Sabre. Sabre, you need to get your act together, because you took over a mom and pop operation out over here in Matthews, North Carolina, right next to Charlotte, and you're running that place into the ground. And the quality of care for those patients went. When it was a single owner that owned it, the staff was well taken care of, the patients were well taken care of, everybody was happy. Big corporation bought it, came in, Sabre came in, and the nurses are miserable. 5 nurses bailed out already, and it's only been a month. And the rest are looking for an escape route. You guys don't care about the people, do you? You don't care about the patients. It's the money. That's what runs these homes down. It's the money. It's the bottom line. You have businessmen or businesswomen, business people that come in and they buy these rehabilitation centers, these geriatric care centers, and the only thing they're looking at is the business model. And the people, the patients, they're just numbers. They're just numbers. You started cutting pay, you cut benefits, you took away incentives like shift pay, right? That's why this is happening. Because big corporations today don't care about you or me. That's the reason. It's unfortunate. You know, you get something like MyPillow. They care about their employees. You know, and they're kind of corporate, you know, but it's a one owner, but it's a big company. You know, these single owner companies, they're the best. You think of In-N-Out Burger out of California, owned by by a family that runs that organization. People love it. They're happy. People that work there are happy. They keep it simple when you're going through the line, and it's people love In-N-Out Burger out there. You know, but it's well ran, and it's a Christian family that owns it, and so they have Christian values. My wife is bailing out a Sabre. Bye-bye, Sabre, you messed up. You need to get your act together. I'm calling you out. And she's going to a different corporation that is Christian owned and Christian ran. Much, much better. Much better. Totally different atmosphere. They care about their people that they work. They care about their employees, and they care about their patients. All right. Now, this is really one that I want to really get to. G20 announces plan to impose digital currencies and IDs worldwide. This one's important because this is a part of the 2030 agenda out of the UN that is going to be a hammer against we the people. And this is one we're going to have to be smart on how we resist. By the way, never pass up a good opportunity to resist a mandate. I'm just shoving it back in the face of Emmanuel. What was his name? The guy that said, never let a crisis go to waste. Well, I'm shoving it back to him and saying never allow a good opportunity to resist a mandate go to waste. All right? The group of 20 leaders have agreed to a plan to eventually impose digital currencies and digital IDs on their respective populations. Digital IDs are not good. This is the surveillance state coming in and wanting to completely and utterly control your lives. So you go to the grocery store, and it'll have a QR code. This is the digital ID, a QR code. And you go to walk in a grocery store, and it locks you out. Why? Wait a minute, you have not been vaccinated with the COVID vaccination. I have to say vaccination on YouTube. I know that's not what it is, but YouTube, I'm going to have to say vaccination. You can't come in and buy groceries. Digital ID. Oh, wait, you're not meeting the qualifications of the mandates. You can't travel. You can't go on that cruise. You can't drive from here to Charlotte because we're going to put you on a 15-mile limit. And when you try to go into the store to buy something, well, you're not going to be able to. And if you don't think that's not coming, if you don't think that's not what they're trying to do, check Europe, because it's already starting to happen over in Europe. It says, despite fears that governments will use them to monitor their people's spending and crush dissent. And that's the point. When we say, do not comply, and we say, well, I'm not going to put a mask on. Well, I'm not going to take a shot. Well, I'm not going to whatever it might be. I'm not going to close my business and so on. They use this digital ID concept to shut the people down. Well, how do we overcome that? We have to put pressure back on the banks, the corporations, and the politicians and let them know there's going to be a price to pay from we the people if you go along with this. And we have to make sure, just like with a child, that Johnny, stop, you don't do that, you do it again, you're going to be punished. Johnny does it again. Well, now, Johnny, I told you to stop, don't do that. If you do it again, you're going to be punished. Johnny does it again. Well, Johnny, it's warn one time. Johnny, stop now, or there will be consequences. Johnny does it again. Consequences. Boom, right then and there, and you stay consistent with that. That's how we have to deal with corporations, businesses, banks, and government. Now, the G2, which is currently under India's presidency, or G20, I meant to say, the G20, which, by the way, the G20 is the deep state globalist oligarch. They go to the G20. They're the ones that go to the G20. The other side, Russia, India, and so forth, who joined the Brexit's in my mind from when England left Europe. I can't remember what they call it now. BRICS. That's the other one. Well, there's that side, and then there's the G20 side. And they're kind of clashing against each other. Personally, I don't trust either one of them. I don't trust the G20, I don't like them, and I don't trust BRICS, and I don't like them. Because I think both of them are corrupt, in my opinion. All right. Now, the G20, which is currently under India's presidency, adopted a final declaration on the subject over the weekend in New Delhi. The meeting, which included the world's leading economies, announced last week that they had agreed to build the necessary infrastructure to implement digital currencies and IDs. In other words, we want to enslave you, the people, and have total control over you. And if you don't affirm what we have dictated to your child, what gender they are to be, because that's what happens in public schools. If you don't affirm that, we're gonna mess with you on your digital ID. That's how they want to do it. You know what these people are? They are very rich, very powerful, spoiled brat children throwing a tantrum. In my mind, from my view, that's all they are. Well, you know what? What are you going to do if billions of people decide they want to throw a tantrum? The meeting, which included the world's leading economies, announced last week that they had agreed to build the necessary infrastructure to implement digital currencies and IDs. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. See, this is a sign that we're in the last days. The Antichrist is coming, the rapture's coming, all this kind of stuff. I'm sorry, but I don't agree with your eschatological view. I don't agree with that view. When I'm looking at prophecy in Scripture, I'm seeing it differently than you are. So I'm not going to agree with that. But what this is the same thing that they did 500 years ago. It's the elitist globalists throwing a tantrum. That's all it is. You know how you shut down a tantrum? Come here. Now go off in that corner and face that wall until I tell you can come out. Stop that crying. Stop that whining. That's just pride. You're whining because you're angry. You're whining because you want to rebel against your dad or your mom. Stop that. When you decide you want to do right, you can come to the dinner table. That's how we have to treat the G20. That's how we have to treat BRICS. We, the people, have to rise up and say, no more of this, behave yourself, or we will shut you down. Just like we did to the beer company. Perhaps, what wasn't Blue, what was it? Miller Lite? Yeah. They fired their entire marketing department, I would say. Their entire marketing department fired. Too late. Too late. Miller, High Life, Miller Lite. I don't drink beer, so. Too late. Once you've messed up, and we the people put a target on your back, you might as well bend over and kiss your rear goodbye. Because we're relentless now. We're not stopping. So, Chase Bank, whoever else, whatever bank you want to name, Bank of America, you want to play these games? And you don't think we can't take you down? You might want to think again. All right. Anything else? Yeah, I'm not seeing that. Those are the most recent articles coming out of the Epoch Times, and I think I've ranted enough. I think this is a good time to go into the scriptures for a few moments. Let's go to Isaiah and take a look at something. Because you see, we might think that the globalists are all powerful and there's nothing anybody can ever do to stop their plans. I'll just be undignified for a moment. Let me tell you what God has to say here. Israel had that attitude at one point. Well, no one will ever take us down because, we're God's favorite. You ever have a kid do that? Well, I'll never be punished because I'm Dad's favorite. I'm the teacher's pet. They'll never punish me. Oh, I'll never be held accountable. I'm the mayor. I'm on the city council. They can't punish me. Oh, I'm the chief of police. Oh, I'm the sheriff. Oh, I'll never be punished for anything I do. Think again, Sherlock. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Ooh. Do you hear what God called them? He's talking to his people Israel that he called out. Abraham, he says, I'm calling you out. I'm going to make you a special nation. You will be very special to me. Through you will come the line of the Messiah that will save the world from its sins. You are a very special people. You are my people. Ah. After a while, Israel got, yeah, we're in good with God. We're in good with God, so hey, nobody will ever touch us. He just called them Babylon. He said, come here, Babylon. Whoa, wait. My name's not Babylon. My name's not Babylon. Aren't I your favorite? I'm putting in terms where people can really understand it. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne. You don't have a throne anymore. I took it away from you. O daughter of the Chaldeans. Why? Because they were going to be captured and taken into Babylon. And then the Chaldeans were going to take over Babylon, and then they would be under the captivity of the Chaldeans. Historically, that's what happened. And it's a very interesting story how Cyrus took Babylon down. Babylon was supposed to be impenetrable. I mean, it had, I think, 3 very, very thick walls. There's no way to penetrate into the city. The city was self-sufficient inside those walls. So you know what he did? He built a dam, dried up the river that was running through the wall to provide water for the city, walked in at night on a dry riverbed, while the Babylonians were having a big party, and they were all drunk. And that night, the Chaldeans went in, the Medes and the Persians went in, the Medes and the Persians went in, and they destroyed Babylon. The Babylons were actually they were all part of the Chaldeans as well. So, Chaldean nation. But that's the story of the Medes and Persians, how they took down Babylon. But he calls them a daughter of the Chaldeans, a daughter of Babylon. What's he calling them? You heathens. Come here, heathen. That's basically what God was saying to Israel. Heathen, get over here right now and stand in front of me. We're going to have a talk. How would you like God to call you in like that when you were God's favorite? Oh, we're going somewhere with this. For thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. You're not going to be called tender and delicate anymore. Take the millstone and grind meal. Uncover your locks. Make bare the leg. This ain't sounding good. Uncover the thigh. Pass over the rivers. Your nakedness will be uncovered. I'm going to expose you, Israel, for the crimes and the evil that you have committed. You don't think God won't do that to the deep state, to the New World Order? What we learn from these passages is the character of God. This passage demonstrates the righteousness and the holiness of God. Now, he's been patient with Israel for a long time. He showed his grace and his mercy to them for a long time. But there comes a point where God says, that's it, no more, that's enough. I'm bringing judgment. How long do you think the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and all the folks that are involved in the deep state, involved in child trafficking, involved in the sex trade, involved in that modern day slavery, involved in trying to murder millions of people around the globe with bioweapons, involved in all of this evil, how long do you think it would take before God runs out of patience and exposes their nakedness? Now, wait a minute. It's easy for us to sit here and go, yeah, look at those guys. God's going to get them. But I would heed that we take some time out and look in the mirror. Why is all this stuff happening? Why the pandemic? Why the mandates? Why the shots? Why the mask? Why the shutdowns? Why all of this stuff? Digital IDs, the attempt to bring in all of this draconian control over humanity. Why? Because God's bringing judgment. Well, what did we do to bring judgment upon us? How many of you churches out there have bought into the progressive theology? Have you had drag queen shows in your churches? You don't think that's not going to make God angry? I'm not politically correct, folks, and I'm not a politician. I just send it out there just straight the way it is. What else has the church done? Oh, let's talk about revoice. Jesus said, if you look upon a woman to lust after her, you have already committed adultery in your heart. Just from a thought sin. Well, you think it suddenly changes if you have the same lust toward someone of the same sex? Same lust as a transgender? But I'm a Christian. Oh, I have homosexual tendencies, but I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm identified as a homosexual, but I'm a Christian. Wrong answer, Sherlock. You lust after someone else, you make them your God. So not only have you committed adultery in your heart, you've also violated the first and the second commandments. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. And you should not have any image that you worship. Well, that person becomes an image that you're worshiping. Have I been guilty of that when it comes to me and the opposite sex? Guilty as charged. But I go to 1 John chapter 1 where it says if you confess your sins, God is faithful and just to forgive your sins. You know what I do? I humble myself before a holy and a righteous God, and I say, Lord, forgive me. But does Revoice do that? No. They touted out pride. You wonder why God's bringing judgment? Somebody's got to tell you. We've turned into a church filled with cowards who will not call the sin out in the church. We got to cleanse the church. As for our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Sit silent and get into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, you heathens. For you shall no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. Your lofty position as the favorite of God has just been knocked right out out from underneath you. You're sitting on your little throne, and God comes along and kicks your throne right out from under you, and there you go, slamming on the floor. I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance, and giving them into the hand, thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid your yoke. And thou saidst, I shall be a lady forever. She said, oh, God will never do anything to me, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it. Therefore, hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures. Do we love pleasure more than we love God? That dwell carelessly, that say in your heart, I am and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. What's happening to our kids today? They're under assault by our education system. They're under assault by our government. They're under assault by the sodomite agenda. God's judgment. We might want to look in the mirror. Did we throw our kids to the wolves? I graduated high school, a public high school, in 1979, and I knew then that the public school system was a heathenistic, secular humanist system that mocked God. In 1979, I knew that. How much patience is God supposed to have with us as we as Christians naively throw our kids to the wolves and allow the wolves to devour them? And then we go to the school board meetings and we complain? Well, you're not recognizing me as the parent. You think the wolf cares about the sheep's opinion? Well, come here, parent. I'll devour you too. I done had your kids. You're next. Get them out. These two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day: the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection for the multitude of thy sorceries. Sorceries. What's that today? Drugs. Drugs. Transcendental meditation, remote viewing, UFO religion, you name it. Or just plain old-fashioned self-worship. I sit on my own throne. I do not sit. Christ does not sit on my throne. I sit on my throne. Christ is not Lord of Lords and King of Kings over me. I will do what I want, but I'll still call myself a Christian. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in a day: the loss of the children, the widowhood, and they shall come upon you in their perfection for the multitude of your sorceries and for the great abundance of your enchantments. Now, this is what Israel was doing before Babylon. God used Babylon to come in and punish them for their wickedness. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. How much have we trusted in our wickedness? Well, what would that be? Oh, the public education system. We trust in that. We trust in government, which is corrupt and has lied to us and deceived us. Do we trust the news media which is corrupt and has lied to us and deceived us? Or do we trust in God? Therefore shall evil come upon thee. Thou shalt not know from whence it rises. How many times have we said, man, how did the world get like this? What in the world has happened? Where did all this transgenderism come from? Where did all of these drag queen shows come from? How did these pride parades? My goodness, that wasn't around when I was a kid. Hello, baby boomers. You sent your kids to the wolves, didn't you? Yeah, my parents sent me to the wolves. So I got to call it, I'm calling a spade, folks. I'm running out of time. There's more here. But open up Isaiah 47, read it for yourself. Get an education. Folks, we can't continue down this road. We have a decision to make. Either we're going to walk with Christ 100% in education, in government, in business, in how we raise our kids, how we handle our families, or we're going to walk with Satan. Make your choice, and God will make his. I'll see you next time.